In this video, we're going to talk about methods that take input to work. And so now they're going to be relying on some information that is provided for them. So similar to f of x, when there was some function that was dependent on x, this is dependent on some value being supplied to the function. We're going to do that same thing, and we're going to do it with our backwards method that we already have. So we're going to go back to that same program we've been working with, and we're going to take a look at that backwards method. And notice that in the last video, I went and got the user, the word from the user right here in backwards. Well, I'm going to change that, and I am not going to get the word from the user in backwards. Instead, I'm going to go scroll way down to main. So I'm going way down to main at the bottom of my program. That's where I always put my main. And I am going to create a string variable called, it doesn't matter what you call it, I'm just going to call it user word or something like that. And that's where in main I'm going to call on that get word method that we wrote in the last video. So now user word, I'm finding that one time in main. And what I want to do when I call on backwards, I want to call on it and say, hey, take this user word with you to the backwards method and use it to get the value. So my compiler sees main first. It'll say, oh, she wants to call on backwards. I'm going to go up to backwards, and I'm going to take with me that user word. So up it runs, goes on a little journey up to backwards. It gets up here and sees an empty parameter list. It's like, wait a second. Once I'm up here, how do I store that? So it's like the x part in f of x. So again, I'm not going to call on get word here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this string where I want to store the word for this backwards method, and I'm going to cut that, and I'm instead going to declare it right here inside of the parentheses. This tells my compiler whatever gets sent up here, whatever message was sent from main, so whatever value that user word had, comes up here and it gets stored in my word. So now it'll go through and it'll work exactly like it's supposed to, and it'll print out the new word. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. Let's see if it works. So compiler sees main first. Main comes up and says, enter a word. That's that first line in main that says user word equals, I'm going to scroll down to it so you can see it side by side. Right there, user word equals get word. And so if I'm here, I type in my word. Now my word programming is going to go up to the backwards, put these side by side. It's going to go up to the backwards. It's going to take programming with it. The word programming goes up here, gets replaced. My word now is programming. And now it's going to run through all of this code. When I click OK, and sure enough, it says your word programming, backwards is that. Okay, so that's how you get input into a function, is you do that right through the parameter list.